All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 304. And today, we got some Daggerheart news. So if anyone doesn't know, today is the Hallowest of Eames. And so everybody's doing Halloween type stuff. Well, the people over at Darrington Press decided their Halloween surprise would be they released the Blood Hunter class for Daggerheart. Not only did it show up on the Void, if you don't know, the Void is where they put all of their new playtest materials. However, there's also the Daggerheart Nexus. That's the online D&D Beyond, but not D&D Beyond thing for Daggerheart. It's got a character builder. It's got lots of cool stuff. I love it. I own the Daggerheart demiplane version because it is just massively useful. It integrates seamlessly with Roll20. It's great. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. I just like the product. So normally what happens is something is released on the Void, and then a few weeks to a month later, it will show up on the demiplane because, in general, the people at demiplane are kind of have to work off of the Void thing to add it in. They're not getting like behind the scenes stuff or not a ton of it. Today was a little bit different because the exact same day that the Blood Hunters showed up on the Void, it also showed up in the Daggerheart demiplane. So right now, if you would like to, you can go to the Daggerheart demiplane and start building a Blood Hunter character, which I did, and I love it. Absolutely adore it. There's a few aspects of it that are not like perfect, but overall it's a very, very cool class. The Hope feature is called Blood Maledict. It's basically Oath of Enmity from like the Vengeance Paladin in D&D 5th edition, or the original source of that, the Avenger from 4th edition. You basically mark someone, and until you rest, take severe damage, or use the feature again, you have advantage on all action rolls against the target. And that's just not attack rolls, that's all action rolls. So when you maledict a dude, you're like, no, everything I do better against you. Which is actually kind of cool. One of the things that has kind of drawn some criticism as far as Daggerheart as a whole is concerned is the unique hope feature. Every single class has what's referred to as a unique hope feature. And it's a feature that requires you spending 3 hope. And depending on the class, a lot of the features just really aren't worth the 3 hope, because 3 hope can mean a lot of different things. Like 3 hope is 3 different times that you get to use an experience, or it costs 3 hope to initiate a team up maneuver. So burning your 3 hope for whatever your unique hope feature is really needs to be better than you initiating literally any team up to attack. And for a lot of them, they tend to be kind of situational, or there's better things to use them on. They just haven't been super warmly received, and a lot of people will generally use. And there's a bunch of other, like there's a bunch of class features that will let you burn hope, and like there's a ton of other things that you can use hope for that are not this unique hope feature. And so a lot of classes, like in actual play, people just don't use the hope feature. It costs half of your hope, and there's just other things you could use it for. Blood Maledict is a useful feature. Do I think it's 3 hope useful? I don't know, but it's definitely something that I would use on a fairly regular basis, because it's just, again, really, really useful. And the other thing that I think a lot of people kind of undervalue about Daggerheart when you're playing it is you are constantly earning hope and fear. Um, so every time you roll, you will generate either hope or fear, with the only exception being reaction rolls. So every time the dice are hitting the table, you are earning either fear for the GM or hope for you. And it should be about 50-50. So for rolling heavy games, um, I actually, the first Daggerheart game that I ran was a Zelda Daggerheart one shot. It was actually lots of fun. But one of the players just didn't use their hope for anything, and so they were constantly rolling with hope and were at max hope and couldn't utilize any of it. And I think a lot of people see, oh my God, that's half my hope. How could I spend half my hope? But since you're constantly generating the stuff, it's not nearly as big an investment as people think it is. So that being said, the actual class features of the class, you have Crimson Rite and Grim Psychometry. Crimson Rite works remarkably similar to how it does in D&D. You mark a hit point to enchant one of your active weapons. Until you finish your next rest, that weapon deals physical or magical damage. Choose when you use this feature, and an extra 1d6 damage when you hit with it, and then the extra damage gets bigger as you level up. So, very similar to how it works in 5th edition. Thank you, phone. Very similar to how it works in 5th edition. You can hurt yourself to make your weapon deal more damage, which is always fun. But some of the other abilities that you can get for this class make it massively useful. The one that I particularly enjoy, there is a feature. It is a first level blood hunter, or a blood domain card. By the way, blood hunters use the blade domain, which already exists, and the blood domain, which is brand new for the blood hunter, which is starting to become a theme. It looks like every time they introduce a new class, at most, they will only introduce one new set of domain cards. They have yet to create a class that has two unique new domains. This ability, Power Through Pain, if you have at least one hit point marked, you gain a bonus to your damage rolls. This bonus equals twice your number of marked hit points. So basically, from level 1, the Blood Hunter can hurt themselves to get an extra d6 of damage on their weapon, plus every time they take damage, they do, for every every hit point they mark, they get +2 damage. And so I built a character, leveled him all the way up to level 10. He has 13 hit points because he uses hit points for everything. So just every chance I had to increase hit points, I did. If you get him all the way to 12 hit points, which is the highest amount of hit points he can have marked without being dead, and he's using just a tier 2 whip weapon, because I made a Belmont. His name is Belmont. I actually downloaded a picture of Julius Belmont from the Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow Giga games, for his portrait. So with that and Crimson Rite on, he does 68 plus 3d6 plus 27, or technically at really high levels because of the Order of the Ghost Slayer, he actually does d8s instead of d6s for his Crimson Rite. So 68 plus 3d8 plus 27 damage with a whip. Like, that's all he has is a whip, but it's a massive cool one. Oh man, it's just... It is such a cool class. And that's one of the other things that I really, really like about Daggerheart specifically, is because, like, weapons and armor are not limited to class. Like, the only limitation you have is any magic weapons require you to have a casting spellcasting ability, of which I think there's only 2 classes that don't have a spellcasting ability built into one of their subclasses. So with any character that you make, the class and the domain cards are effectively just mechanics that you can kind of modify to create whatever kind of character you want. Like the Blood Hunter themselves, a lot of the blood abilities tend to have a kind of, you do damage to yourself to damage an enemy. Like one of do I have it here? One of the abilities that I'm not seeing in front of me right now. Oh, here it is. So Sanguine Feast, which I think is their 10th level ability. Yeah, it's a 10th level ability. You make a spellcasting roll against an adversary within close range, which is within about 30 to 50 feet, depending on how you're measuring close. On a success, spend 2 hope to mark 1 to 3 hit points, and the target marks twice the number of hit points you marked. If this causes the target to mark their last hit point, you can clear the hit points you marked to cast this spell. So, Sanguine Feast, first of all, normally the most damage you can do on any attack is 3 hit points, because that's a severe damage. If you're using optional rules, I think it's if you double the severe damage threshold, you can get them to mark 4 hit points. But that's the only time you can do more of that. With this, minimum, as long as you make your spellcasting roll, you do 2 hit points of damage. Maximum, you can do 6, which is huge. Even at really, again, this is 10th level, so things have more hit points. That's still a lot. Like, that's like half the hit points of a tough monster. And then if you kill them with it, you get all the hit points back, which is really cool. But if you don't kill it with them, you are just making yourself stronger if you have that power through pain. And there's another ability I have that basically, for every 3 hit points I have marked, it increases my evasion by 1. So yeah, even if it doesn't, doesn't kill them, you're still making yourself stronger. So that in and of itself is very, very cool. But when you look at the Blood Hunter in D&D, it really is, I mean, it's a Witcher. Like, that's what it was. Technically, it was created to emulate a character from a movie that Vin Diesel made called The Last Witch Hunter. If you haven't seen it, you really don't need to. Was it a great movie? It's kind of a generic fantasy film, and the character was actually based on a character that Vin Diesel had played as a D&D character. It was based on his D&D character. So those of you going, man, I wish I could do something with a D&D character. Well, get really close with family and learn how to drive cars really fast. And you too can have a vanity project that is just you getting to play your D&D character on the big screen. But they created the Blood Hunter, which used to be called the Witch Hunter, specifically for this one shot where Vin Diesel was going to play with Geek and Sundry. And then Matt turned it into the Blood Hunter to avoid copyright, and it's effectively a Witcher. Like the mutant subclass in 5th edition is a Witcher, like 100%. And then the other 2 are just kind of different flavors of it, but that's exactly what it is, and the flavor kind of fits. But with Daggerheart, if I wanted to create like a Death Knight style character, like full-on Death Knight from like World of Warcraft, I 100% could use a Blood Hunter to do that. Or if I wanted to create a Dark Knight from Final Fantasy, again, I could do that. But on the flip side, I created a Belmont character. I created, effectively, Julius Belmont from Castlevania, which is not a knight-type character at all. They wear, Victorian-looking... Well, I mean, technically, Julius wears a leather duster, and a leather duster, a leather vest, and a cravat. But they're never like super heavy armored, and they use this whip, and they're hyper agile and stuff like that. And 100%, you could create a blood hunter just like that, or you can create a death knight, because they have one of the blood abilities they have is called blood puppet, where you literally take over someone, which does give kind of undead spellcastery type feels. Or since they have a spellcasting ability, you can take it the other direction. You can create like a blood mage from Dragon Age. Like, all of these different characters are possible using the same abilities, using or the same selection of abilities or pool of abilities, and the same character class, because they didn't tie weapons and armor and things like that to the class. They simply just have, this is a cool ability and it kind of fits with the flavor of the class, which is effectively how 4th edition kind of worked. Now, 4th edition is more limiting than Daggerheart by a significant amount. Like, if you wanted to create a Belmont style character, but you wanted to use a fighter to do it, you're not going to have a good time. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that. I'm not saying it's not possible, because with the right combination of feats and stuff, you can do some really weird shit in 4th edition. But that idea of, hey, we're going to give you abilities that let you do cool things, but you're allowed to kind of reflavor them, like just treat them as mechanics and then go with it. I've told this story many times before. We had this kid that played with us when I first started playing D&D. My first D&D character that I ever played, I think technically the first one I ever played was it was either my Tiefling Blade Singer in my home game, or it was my Eladrin Sword Mage that I played at this table at a friendly local game store. And I think it might have been the Sword Mage, because I think my home game started after that. But anyway, so this dude that we played with, he created this character that was a druid shaman hybrid character. Because we came in at the very tail end of 4th edition, and so they in Player's Handbook 3 they introduced the idea of hybrid characters, which is literally you just take two classes and smush them together, and then as you level up, you can take powers from either class. It was a cool concept. I think it's probably the best that multi-classing has ever been in a Dungeons and Dragons game, significantly better than 5th edition multiclassing, which doesn't really work that well, with a few rare exceptions. And it was just really, really fun. So it was a druid shaman hybrid character, but what he did was, thank you, phone. What he did was reflavored everything he did as, well, I conjure a bear. And because the shaman had this ability where he could send out a familiar that he could cast spells from and stuff like that, that was a bear. And then in order, the way that a shaman got his familiar out there is he actually had an attack he could do where he would shoot someone with cold damage, and then the familiar would kind of leap next to whatever character got hit with it. So he reflavored that to a bear cannon. He would take a bear and he would conjure this like celestial cannon and put a little like hat on his bear, so it looked like a bullet, and then he'd fire the bear, and then the bear would land there. And then he also had a bunch of different summon spells, all of which summon bears. At one point, I think he could have up to 7 different bears on the field. And he could turn into a bear himself, because of course druids gotta have that. And yeah, like Could you do that in 5th edition? Technically, yes, but it just wasn't as much fun because 5th edition just doesn't have the flavor aspect. It doesn't have the powers that actually allowed you to do cool things. Like, you have spells that will allow you to do a single effect, but a lot of the powers, like one of my favorite powers for, I think it was the Avenger. No, this is actually a Sword Mage ability. It was a daily, but what it did, I can't remember what it was called, but you would make an attack against an enemy, but you could teleport as part of that attack to get to an enemy. So you'd make an attack, then you'd pick another enemy within a certain range and make a secondary attack, and you would teleport to them. And then there is you could make a tertiary attack. You pick a third enemy, and you attack them. And so each one of these attacks, you teleported to each one, and it was lightning-based attacks. So it was literally like a Ride the Lightning thing, where you would like turn into a bolt of lightning, teleport next to someone, boom. Lightning bolt to next person, boom. Lightning bolt to a third person, boom. There are no spells really in 5th edition that allow you to do something like that. And that was, if I remember correctly, I think that was a first level daily power. It was either first or like third, whenever you got your second daily power. And abilities just got cooler from then on because powers were not merely meant to be, oh, you do damage, you do this type of damage. No, they were meant to give you the ability to do something that you couldn't do any other way in the game. Like, there wasn't a mechanic to teleport and attack 3 different people. So any power that you got was a lot more than just, oh, I select this target and I do this kind of damage, or maybe I will also give them a debuff of some sort. No, all the powers did a lot more than that. You could move as part of them, or you could give an ally a buff, or you would, attack a bunch of different people. Like, they were all really, really cool. And that's one of the things that I really like about Daggerheart, is the fact that because each ability, for the most part, there are still kind of your generic, oh, you just do damage. But for the most part, most of the domain cards that you get are going to do more than just, oh, you do damage. They're going to give you something interesting as part of that. And because the game is designed kind of around the idea of reflavoring, you can really make it work however you want. And for me, that's really important. I really enjoy doing stuff. Like I said, my first thought was, I'm totally making a Belmont. But after building the character, I went, wait a minute, I totally could have made a Dark Knight. Like, I could have made my Dark Knight character from Final Fantasy XIV. Because I played, I first started playing Final Fantasy XIV at the very tail end of A Realm Reborn. And then as soon as Heaven's Word came out, I went from playing a ninja, because the character is based on my D&D character Aether. They're still named, I think they're Aether Strike in there, because I couldn't choose just Aether as the name. They started as a monk and then immediately went to a ninja, because Aether was effectively a ninja. He was a shadow monk. But he was effectively a ninja, and I liked the ninja skill set better than... and it came with a teleport, and I liked that. But then I immediately went to Dark Knight, and I stayed with Dark Knight all the way through Shadow Bringers when I switched to Gunbreaker. Because who doesn't want to go around with a sword that blows up when you hit people? So yeah, I 100% could create a Dark Knight style character. And I love characters like that. Like, the character of Cecil from Final Fantasy IV is by far one of my favorite characters in all of Final Fantasy, because the story of the character is so unique and so interesting. They start off as a Dark Knight, which is an evil character. Like, they give into darkness, they sacrifice their life force to do damage. And in one of the first scenes in the game, Cecil is talking to Rosa about being a Dark Knight, because Rosa's got the hots for him, and Cecil technically has the hots for Rosa, but because he's a Dark Knight, because he's kind of given his soul over to darkness, he feels like he can't really have any sort of relationship with Rosa because the dark corruption that is built into his character now will ruin it and will hurt her. And so he tells her flat out, it's like, we can't be together. I chose the dark sword because that's what the king wanted. I made this sacrifice for my king. And part of that sacrifice means that relationships really aren't a thing for me. And then as you play the game, spoiler alert for like a 40-year-old game, as you play the game, eventually you get to a point where he gives up his life as a Dark Knight because he's never going to be able to defeat evil as a Dark Knight, seen as he has evil, and he turns into a paladin. And it's such an interesting story beat. It was a super, super cool story moment that had never really happened before in an RPG, of a character like literally just changing classes and becoming completely different. Like, it's such a cool thing. And so I love Dark Knights. I love that idea of, I make this sacrifice so that I can do the greater good. Despite the fact that I am no longer good, I hope that the effects of my bad deeds create good. I like that kind of character. I think it's a very intriguing type of character. Now, in real life, that's a horrible, horrible thing. Ends never justify the means. They don't. I want to emphasize this. That's not how this works. But from a storytelling perspective, that is an interesting story. In a real life perspective, no, don't do that. That's not something you want to do. Anyway, I just thought you guys would really get a kick out of that, because again, it's a cool class. I can't wait to see. I'm really excited to see when all this void stuff actually becomes a supplement and where it's going to show up. Are we going to get something like a rules expansion where something like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or Xanathar's Guide, where all it is, hey, here's some new mechanics and features that we're going to give you? Or we've already been told that Keith Baker is making a campaign setting. Jeremy Crawford is working on a campaign setting. And then Chris Perkins is working on just adventures and things like that. So all these new Void content that we're getting, are we going to get them as part of a campaign setting where they're heavily kind of invested in the lore and everything? Are we just going to get like a rules supplement that has all of this stuff in it? Or are we going to get piecemeal things, like the decks that they're selling right now that I'm not particularly fond of because they're overpriced? But are they going to kind of piecemeal some of these things, or they sell them through Drive-Thru RPG or Nexus or through their own shop, and you can just buy, small, I just want to buy the Blood Hunter, or I just want to buy the Witch class, or something like that. I think there are benefits and I can't think of the other words. I think there's benefits and detriments to all three of those different approaches. But if I had to make a guess with what we've seen thus far, I would expect we would get, and especially with just how the Critical Role people work, I would expect that we would get a campaign setting with whatever one of these void-tested classes they decide to eventually publish. I think there's a better chance we're going to get a campaign setting with new classes than we are just going to get a rules expansion. Anyway, interested to hear from you guys. First, what do you guys think of the Blood Hunter? Do you think it's cool? Do you think it needs a lot of work? Let me know in the comments down below. Second of all, what do you guys think is going to be the future of these Void classes? Do you think they're going to just release them piecemeal? Do you think we're going to get a rules supplement? Do you think we're going to get a campaign setting with them in? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.